Greetings, and in this short video presentation, we're going to see how we go about completing the assignment Unit 5 for CIS251. So last week we had the Unit 4 assignment where we went in and we subnetted our network. And in this assignment we're continuing on and we're going to do some finalizing of the network documentation. So you can think of this as mostly documentation or documenting of the existing network infrastructure that we started in Unit 4. Okay, so continuing on with the network diagram that we built in Unit 4, which is the network diagram we now have present up inside of our Unit 5 assignment, you can see that we have our 4 networks and we have the 4 routers, and on each one of these networks we have a certain number of servers as prescribed from the Unit 4 assignment. So we go down and we come into the requirements for this week's assignment, and we start off with a routing table. So the routing table is pretty simple. It's the network plus the gateway plus how far off this network is from the router. So since they wanted so many routers, we're only one hop away. These are all just one hop. One hop, one hop, one hop, one hop. Right. Now if I wanted to document the routes that I was going to be taking to get from 96 over here to .0, well then that would be 4 hops. Okay. But that's not the case. All they want is the network ID, the gateway, and the number of hops to get to that router. So you can see what I've done here is I've used the standardization that we have for configuring our default gateway, which is we always give it to .1. So the default gateway by standard would be for the .0 network 192.123.0.1. And that just makes it easier to find the default gateway for what? Troubleshooting. And we know that if we have to get up onto the router, or in some instances the firewall, that if we use this standardization, well, we can be assured that even if we walk into a strange network, we can take a chance and we can see if the default gateway is 192.123.0.1. Now, how do we find that kind of information if we get into a strange network? Well, actually, what we do is we bring up a command prompt, and if we do a ping, or let's say an IP config, and I do a space /all, I can get all the information I want about the TCP IP settings, and I can even find the default gateway. So here we see that the default gateway for my home network is 192.168.0.1, and there's that standardization again. All right, since this is actually a modem for my from my ISP provider, so the default gateway would be 0, 1, and the DHCP server is going to be the same thing. And then my DNS servers for the outside world, I get those right here. But normally my DNS servers, if I had a domain, if I was building this domain, then this would not be the case. This here would be an inside IP address, and then on that DNS server there would be what? A forwarder that would send that request. If it could not be found on my local internal DNS server, we would use the forwarder to send that request out to my ISP or my provider's DNS server. Okay. Try to make you understand that so that you understand exactly what we're doing here. So this is pretty easy. We're just going to put in our network ID, that is the network ID, which is 192.123.64 for my network C, and then this here would be 192.123.64.1 right in here, right? Okay, and then that's one hop away. That router is one hop away. Now the next thing it asks you to do is a Visio drawing on the placement of all servers across your infrastructure. Well, okay. And then we've got a DHCP configuration table for each scope. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to kind of jump ahead here, and we're going to do an example for the router route table, and we're going to do another example for the DHCP configuration table. So I've already built one here, and this is what it looks like. So you see I got my route table here, and I've just gone in here and I've just done this. This is for your assignment. This is how you're going to do it. Okay. Now, for the DHCP table, you're going to have to go back to your week 4 and remember that we used a subnet calculator to get all this information. So we already have all this information, right? So we don't have to do a whole lot here. I might go ahead and make this a little bit more recognizable. There we go. Now break this down to you. All right, so for my 192.123.0.0 network, the scope range that I can have that can handle 8,192 host IPs would be from .0.1 all the way up through .31.254. Now your reservations can be anything you want to make them. That's up to you. This is part of that network design process where we sit down and we say, okay, I want this number of IPs reserved for my servers. I want this number of IPs reserved for my printers. And that way, those IPs will not be handed out as part of your scope, and they will be reserved solely for the devices that you have identified. Now, again, for the scope options, this is just normal stuff like default gateway, which is always going to be your .1. Get that in there. So .1, and then for the DNS server, that is going to be your primary DNS server, which normally would be the root domain controller or the domain controller or the primary server for that subnet. That's how we do that. So if I have a server that is going to handle DHCP, I'm probably going to have DNS running on at the same time. Now this is something that you've got to kind of envision inside of your brain, because it changes from person to person. I like to keep everything well organized. So you see where I have the reservations here from .10 all the way up to 19? Well, the first server is going to have my DNS running on it, so it's going to have the .10. So that server's IP address would be 192.123.0.10 for that particular subnet. Now I would do the same thing for all of these subnets. So I would just go down here and I would put in the range for this one, this one, this one, and then this information would remain all the same. You see, that's not going to change. And I chose the options not to have any exclusions. Okay. So now you're asking yourself, well, I don't remember getting this information. Well, yeah, we did get that information. If you recall, when we went out over to the assignment 4, you saw that there was a link for a network calculator. And in that network calculator, we typed in our Class B range. Our Class B range was 192.23.0.0. And we needed 8 networks. And then we calculated. This is our subnet mask. This is the CIDR. This is the number of hosts that we have for our 8 networks. And now we can list the networks, and they are right here. So I can go down to my next network, and I can say that the IP range for my scope is going to be from 192.123.32.1 all the way up to 63.254. And I can do that for the next network. So I'm just going to grab this like this. Let me go back over here. And again, I'm just going to pop that in here, copy and paste it in there like that. Change this over just a little bit. All right. And then we're just going to move this down here like this. And there you go. Now I'm just going to copy this information and place it in here. And I can do that again. And I can do that again. Because if I'm using a standardized configuration for my network, this information is never going to change. This is my default design. It gives you more of a method for your madness, so to speak. Okay, you use this for all of your networks, and you know that when you go from one client to the next, exactly how they're built. You're not shotgunning it. You have a method for your network design, you see. So I can go back over here to my routing table, and I can take the next range of IP addresses. This is for my .64 network. And I can just drop that in there just like that. You see? Just like that. We're going to back that off of there. And we'll do that again. Anyway, you get the idea. So there you go. Now, let's go back over to the Visio chart. So I want you to do a Visio for the placement of all servers across the infrastructure. Well, that's not too hard. All right. I've pretty much done it right here for you. Now, how you design your network diagram or how you build your network diagram is completely up to you because there are so many different tools. I used Visio. If you want Visio, you can go out here to the ECPI DreamSpark or the Imagine site and you can get it. All you got to do is just go to your ECPI resources on the course homepage. There you'll find a link for DreamSpark. You click it. If you've not registered for your DreamSpark account, you can do so at this time, and you'll shortly receive your username and password that allow you to log in to DreamSpark. Now, once you get your DreamSpark information, all right, then you can go download Visio. But I'm going to make a recommendation that you think about this carefully because there's two different versions of Visio. One is 2016 and the other one is 2013. My recommendation is that you use the 2013 version. And the reason that is because it is not as flaky and so it's not as problematic as the 2016 version. The 2016 version feels the need to incorporate itself into your current version of Microsoft, and that's when things start to go awry. I have more problems with the 2016 version than I do with the 2013 version, so that's why I recommend that you do that. All right, so I'm going to log in here. It's kind of a funky looking process. You have to go to the web page, then you have to go back over and back out one level and come back in. So here's the 2016 version, which I don't recommend, and then here's the 2013 version. This is the one I recommend right here. Now, if you don't want to use Visio and you want to use something else, you're more than welcome. Now, I'll give you a couple of choices here. For instance, there's SmartDraw, which I really like, which you can actually use online, which is very nice. This is not it. That's the wrong one. Okay. This is SmartDraw Alternative. You can try it now. This is a Lucid Chart, which is another fine example. They have a sign up for free. You're probably going to get something with a watermark, which is fine. All right. So I'm going to type in SmartDraw with networking. There we go. And what this is going to do is give me something a little closer to what I want. So I want network diagramming software with all these wonderful templates up here. Now the great thing about SmartDraw is that I can go in here and I can create an account and then I can get this free for 30 days. Now I can either download it or I can use it online. I prefer to use it online because it's pretty much the same tool and it's actually pretty cool. You can do just about everything. All right. So I have to sign in here. Let's see. Go. Type in my. There we go. Continue with my trial. So here's my network diagram that I was playing with the other day. So you can see that this is pretty much like Visio. I like the icons. I like the icons a little bit better, but you can start dragging things over here. I can go back over here. You can find the server. Let's see where the servers are. I have no idea where they're at. I'm actually looking for them. Generic server. All right, so there's my generic server. Now you got to you got to create a network diagram that shows the placement of your servers, which is what we're doing here. All right, so I got to have what, 4 of these or 5 of these? However many servers you have for your network design. So I've got, in some cases, I might have 2 servers on each one of my subnets. And I'm going to have a web server. My web server is going to be standalone. I'm going to have another server for my DHCP and my other things, and there you go. That's pretty much how it works. So you've got different options here. And one more option that you have is something like a network notepad, which is free. Now you can get this off of the internet for free, and you can play around with it if you like. But there are a lot of other choices. Well, how do you find those choices? Well, you just go to Google and you type in network diagramming software. If you want to be more specific, you can type in the word free. Okay, so then you've got Lucid Charts, you've got Smart Draw, you've got Network Notepad, you've got Visio, and there's all kinds of other tools that you can get for diagramming a network. Okay, so you let your imagination run wild, and you should be able to come up with a tool that will fit your personality. Okay, so that's pretty much it for the Unit 5 assignment. It's not that hard. I showed you how to do it. It's all in here. It's all right in here. It took me 5 minutes. It took me 5 minutes to do that. I think the hardest thing was just building the network diagram. But don't get too involved with that. I mean, I did a kind of an in-depth network diagram, but that's up to you. I mean, you can simplify this all you want. I don't like seeing stick people, and what I mean is I don't like seeing stick diagrams or little circles and things like that. I like to see the icons. And you have to know that when you're building a network diagram for yourself or for a client, that you cannot put enough information on here. You need all the information. That is, if you walked into this network blind and somebody said, I want you to go up onto the DHCP server and add or modify the DNS server information for the scope option. Well, where is the DHCP server? What is the IP address? What is the username and password for me to log on to that, right? So you should be able to just hand me a network diagram with all that information, and I should be able to get to it. That's all I need. If you give me the information, I'll get to the server. But you cannot have enough information on this network diagram. Okay. So my routers up here, they would have their username and passwords. They would have probably a link embedded for the config file. And that would get updated anytime any changes were made. So this thing gets a little convoluted. It gets a little convoluted, but again, you cannot have enough information. And remember that this is a sensitive file, so we want to make sure that we mark it as confidential and that we put it into only the administrators folder, so only the admins have access to it. All right, we don't leave this thing floating around. Okay, too much information. All right, so if you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact your instructor, and I'll see everybody in the Zoom session, hopefully this Thursday. Bye.